Hi, I'm Dave Kelly, and I'm an Adobe certified instructor for both Lightroom and Photoshop. I'm also the author of the book Neat Lightroom Tricks Made Easy. This is the first of the video tutorials that I call Neat Lightroom Tricks. Hopefully these little tricks will help you improve the efficiency and the speed with which you organize and develop your images in Lightroom. So let's get started. Since this is the first of the Neat Lightroom tricks, I thought I'd start with something everyone using Lightroom does, and that is moving sliders on the slider bars. The way most people move the slider on the bar is to click on it with the cursor and then drag it to the right or to the left. I'm sure you're aware that when you drag the slider to the right, you're increasing the effect on the image, and when you drag it to the left, you're decreasing the effect on the image. And while this is the most common way, there are other ways that are faster and more accurate. But before I show you the other ways, let's make sure we're all on the same page as far as the sliders are concerned. Most of the time, the slider starts in the center of the bar or at the 0 position. There are exceptions to this. For example, in the white balance section of the basic panel, the temperature slider, the slider is located at the Kelvin degrees at which the image was shot. Most of the slider bars are what I call percentage sliders. They can be moved from the center position or 0 position to -100, or from the center position or 0 position to +100. There are exceptions to this also. The most important of which is the exposure slider. This is the most powerful slider of all the tone sliders. The changes made with the exposure slider are measured in stops. You can make a change from the 0 position to -5 stops, or from the 0 position to +5 stops. For example, if your image was shot with an aperture of f8 and you made a one-stop change to the negative with the exposure slider, the lighting in the image would be equivalent to f11. Of course, the depth of field wouldn't change, so it would really be more like changing your shutter speed by one stop, or 3 clicks to the negative, 1/250th of a second to 1/500th of a second, for example. Now to the other ways you can move sliders on the bar. At the end of each slider bar is a Scrubby Slider Box. The Scrubby Slider Box will indicate how much of a change you've made, either as a percentage or as stops, by moving a slider on the bar. If you hover your cursor over the Scrubby Slider Box, the cursor changes into a hand with one finger extended and a left and right pointing arrow on that finger. Clicking with the cursor and moving it left or right will do the same thing that clicking on the slider itself and moving it on the bar will do. However, if I click in the Scrubby Slider Box with the cursor, I can type in a numerical value and the slider will move to that position on the bar. For example, if I want to make a -25% change in the highlights, I just have to type in -25 and the slider will move on the bar to that position. Or if I want to make a positive 1 1/3 stop change in the exposure slider, I can click in that box and type in 1.3, and the slider will move to that position on the bar and will lighten the image. This is a much easier and quicker way than trying to move the slider on the bar with a cursor until it says exactly 1.3. A fourth way to move the slider on the bar is to hover your cursor over the bar and then press the up and down arrow keys. Pressing the up key will move the slider to the right. Pressing the down key will move the slider to the left. The fifth and final way to move the slider on the bar is to highlight the name of an effect by clicking on it with the cursor and pressing the plus or minus keys. The plus key moves the slider to the right. The minus key moves the slider to the left. When using either the plus or minus keys or the up and down arrow keys, each time you press one of these keys, you will be making a change of 5% on the percentage sliders and a change of 1/10 of a stop with the exposure slider. If you hold down the shift key and press the up or down arrow key or the plus or minus key, you will be making a change of 20% on the percentage sliders, and with the exposure slider you will be making a change of 1/3 of a stop. If you hold down the Option key on the Mac, the Alt key on the PC, each time you use the plus or minus key or the up or down arrow key, you will be making a change of 2/10 of a stop with the exposure slider, or 1% with the percentage sliders. Using either of these two methods, the plus and minus keys or the up and down arrow keys, you can make some very minute but very accurate changes in your image. Now here's the really neat Lightroom trick. Now that you know how to use the plus and minus keys in the basic panel, you can make changes to any of the effects in the basic panel from another panel. Here's how. Let's say that I want to add a little vignette to my image. So I go down to the effects panel and then slide the amount slider to the right and add the vignette to the panel, and maybe add a little feathering to it. Now then I decide that I would like to decrease the exposure just a little bit and add some more detail to the midtones with a clarity slider. What most people would do would be to scroll back up to the basic panel, open it up, and start using those sliders. But you're not going to be most people anymore, because you know that the last effect slider that you used in the basic panel is going to be still active. And of course you can't remember what that is, but you don't have to, because Lightroom will tell you. All you need to do is press the plus key on the keyboard and it tells you that the last slider you used was the highlight slider. Well, that's close enough to the exposure slider to get there, so all we have to do to get to the exposure slider is press the comma key. If we press it once, it takes us up to the contrast slider. Press it twice, now we're at the exposure slider, and all we have to do is to press the minus key and we darken our picture a little bit. And then we want to add some more clarity, more detail to the midtones. So to get to the clarity slider, we press the period key. Once takes us to the contrast, twice takes us to highlight, 3 times takes us to the shadows, 4 to the white clipping, 5 takes us to black clipping, and the 6th time we press the period key, we're at the clarity slider. So all we need to do is to press the plus key, and if we want to, we can hold down the shift key and add more clarity to the midtones. You can navigate to any effect you want in the basic panel and make the changes you want, and you'll be doing it all from, in this case, the effects panel, but this will work from any panel in the column on the right side of the develop module. So there you have it, some neat Lightroom tricks with the sliders in the basic panel. This and much more is all detailed in Lightroom 5 Made Easy. Thanks for watching. Lightroom 5 Made Easy is available from the publisher through a link on my website, DEK Photography, and it's also available from Amazon.com. Thanks again for watching.